Alright, so today I have a special video as I will go over the entire Ajin Guild arc in solo leveling. In this arc, some truly exciting things happen as we see Jinwoo starting his very own guild. But not only that, as he also needs to abandon an A-rank gate to go and save his sister. So I would definitely recommend you sticking to the end, because this is an arc you don't want to miss. Anyway, with that said, this is spoilers for anime only watchers, so be careful of that. But with that out of the way, please leave a like and a comment on this video, and grab your favorite snacks, and with that out of the way, let's get right into it. The scene then shifts to some hunters, who are being targeted by an ice elf, who is looking for the fragments of brilliant light, however, to no avail. The ice elf, who is known as the Monarch of Frost, is greeted by Yogamont, who is here to deliver him some information about the territory in the east. Monarch of Frost recalls that the Shadow Monarch resides in that territory. However, he does not understand why Yogamont is here telling him about that place when he was supposed to take care of it. Yogamont responds that he has to take care of Regia, which the rulers are going to unleash a bit south to that place. Monarch of Frost mentions that they need someone to take care of the Shadow Monarch. However, Yogamont responds that they would not have to worry about it as long as the designer fulfills his role. Yogamont also informs the Monarch of Frost about the discovery of the largest fragment of light on the eastern island, which piques the Frost Monarch's interest to the point where he agrees to go for it if Yogamont offers a good deal. However, they have more important matters to deal with, as they were lured here by a guy who, despite not having a fragment of brilliant light, left some traces of it. As they are talking about it, the guy they were talking about earlier appears in front of them. He is none other than Sung Il-hwan, who asks if they were talking about Korea a moment ago. Monarch of the Frost does not answer his question, and despite not having enough time, gets ready to fight with Il-hwan. Making sure they do not escape, Il-hwan rushes to attack them, which gets stopped by the Monarch of the Frost, who blocks Il-hwan's attack using his ice shield, after which he causes a huge explosion. The scene then shifts to Jinwoo, who is standing in front of the dungeon boss, who is impressed with Jinwoo's strength and ability, which not only allowed him to reach this far with a small body, but also enabled him to contact the monster freely, something that other humans are not capable of doing. However, he decides to end Jinwoo's shenanigans here and calls out his remaining army, only to be welcomed with silence. The dungeon boss gets confused at this, while Jinwoo, to add to his confusion, summons his shadow army and throws the head of the dungeon's boss's son at him. Jinwoo then orders his shadow army to wipe the remaining monsters at the dungeon. Jinwoo gets attacked by two of the monsters, but Tank rushes in to deal with them, while Beru and Igris charge at the raging dungeon boss and swiftly cut off his arms. The dungeon boss goes into a rage. Tusk, on the other hand, uses his skill, the Hymn of Giants and Inverse Gravity, to make the dungeon boss eat dirt, making it easier for Jinwoo to question him. Jinwoo tries to ask him some questions regarding the system, but is not able to squeeze out any answers, wondering if the system is interfering again. However, he decides not to bother about it, and takes out the key he got from the cursed random box. During the Jeju Island raid, Jinwoo reached level 100 and met the minimum requirements that gave him access to the key information. Jinwoo discovers that by using this key on a specific gate, whose location will be revealed in 417 hours, he will be able to enter the Karten Temple. The Karten Temple is etched in Jinwoo's memories, and there is no way he can forget about the double dungeon. Jinwoo realizes that the system is deliberately calling him towards the dungeon that started everything. However, this time is different, because Jinwoo is no longer the same E-rank hunter he was before. The scene then shifts to Jinho, who is attentively dealing with Jinwoo's haters online, and after a tiring day of removing obstacles from Jinwoo's path, Jinho was able to single out all of the groups that are slandering Jinwoo. Jinwoo sees Jinho is working hard and asks if there was any trouble, to which Jinho, who is surprised at seeing Jinwoo come and go without even making a sound, shakes his head, telling Jinwoo that everything is fine. Jinho notices that Jinwoo is dressed up nicely and asks if there is a special occasion, to which Jinwoo responds that he just came out of a gate and is now going to arrange money for the guild by selling these cores. Jinho gets shocked to see Jinwoo gather a bag full of high-level magical cores, telling Jinwoo that with this many cores, they would not have to worry about the salaries for their employees. Jinwoo is curious at the mention of employees, to which Jinho responds that they need 3 founding members to complete their guild, 2 of whom would be guildmaster and vice master, while the third would be a regular member. Jinwoo believes that even though they are trying to fill the numbers, they should at least look for someone who is sincere, telling Jinho that someone who can stay and work with them would be better. Jinho mentions that now they have to take care of one more urgent matter, and come up with a good name for their guild, something that Jinwoo did not consider to be important. Jinho, who considers it to be the most important thing, begins suggesting guild names, asking Jinwoo if they should name their guild Sungyu after their last names. And while Yusung sounds more natural, Jinho cannot bring himself to put his name before Jinwoo's. Jinho then suggests another name, telling Jinwoo that they can call the guild Wooho by using the last characters of their names, or Jinjin by using their middle characters. While Jinho is pumping out more and more names for their guild, Jinwoo suggests that because their guild is primarily a solo player guild, they call it the Solo Play Guild. Jinho is taken aback when he hears that, wondering if Jinwoo was making a joke or if he was actually suggesting the name for the guild, with the latter being a good thing because it shows Jinwoo is a normal human being who makes mistakes. While they are brainstorming different guild names, there is a knock on the door, so Jinho goes to answer it, only to have a heart attack by seeing Hunter Hae-in in front of him, who seems to be looking for the guild office of Jinwoo's guild. Jinwoo, who is also startled a bit, asks Hae-in why she came here, to which Hae-in responds that she wants to join Jinwoo's guild. Jinwoo, confused at what Hae-in said, asks her to explain what she meant, to which Hae-in responds that she simply wants to join Jinwoo's guild. But rather than clarifying things for Jinwoo, it only confuses him further. Jinwoo believes there must be a reason for her decision and asks Hae-in if she is joining this guild at the request of Chairman Gunhee, or because Hunter Choi Jongin kicked her out because there is no other compelling reason to join the Solo Play Guild. Instead of answering Jinwoo's question, Hae-in is rather shocked at the name of Jinwoo's guild, which Jinwoo thinks is perfect, as both he and the Vice Master, Jinho, agreed to it. Jinho, who did not even know that they decided on the guild's name in the first place, cries about all the names he suggested to Jinwoo. Jinwoo, in his defense, responds that he took Jinho's silence as his approval and decided the name for the guild. Jinho wants to say something, however, Jinwoo decides not to deal with it at the moment, for his judgment is already clouded because of the current situation. Jinwoo notices that Hae-in is pretending to act calm, but she cannot fool Jinwoo, as her pulse, breathing and expression tell everything about her. However, what they do not tell Jinwoo is the reason she is trying to join Jinwoo's guild. Jinwoo mentions that Hae-in would find it difficult to join Jinwoo's guild because she has been awakened for 2 years and is still under contract with the Hunter Guild. Hae-in responds that it will not be a problem because she has more than enough money to cover the penalty. Jinwoo, surprised that Hae-in would go so far as to pay the penalty to join his guild, informs her that they are unable to compensate a great hunter like her due to limited resources. However, Hae-in assures him that this is not an issue because she does not require a down payment. This only makes Jinwoo more wary of her, as no one would normally join a guild without receiving some sort of benefit. Hae-in cannot think of a way to explain her thoughts to Jinwoo, because no matter how she says it, it would come out as if she is crazy. Hae-in recalls how she was initially drawn to Jinwoo's smell, which piqued her interest in Jinwoo to the point where, despite repeatedly telling herself not to worry about it, Ahijn often kept herself up to date with the drama surrounding Jinwoo in the social media forum, where there were many bad comments about Jinwoo. With the passage of time, Jinwoo slowly and steadily became the only light in her dark world, especially when Ahijn had a near-death experience. Ahijn had already declared that her fight with the Ant King would be her last, but she found herself waking up in a helicopter with Chairman Gunhee, who was transporting her to the hospital. Even at the time, Ahijn rushed to ask Chairman Gunhee about Jinwoo, who confirmed that Jinwoo did participate in the Jeju Island raid, making her relieved that what she saw was not a dream, but rather a reality. At that point, Ahijn wished that if there came a situation again where she could not avoid death, she wanted Jinwoo to stay with her until her last moments, but there was no way she could tell that to Jinwoo, which further confused Jinwoo. From her expression, Jinwoo concludes that Ahijn is definitely hiding something, and she might have planned this a long time ago. Jinwoo presses Ahijn once more for an answer, and she finally responds that she wants to live a comfortable life. Jinwoo is taken aback by Ahijin's response, while Jinho believes that Ahijn is joining this guild because it may be difficult for her to leave this field, which Jinwoo completely understands, as the burden of being one of the youngest S ranks must be heavy. Additionally, Ahijn may be in rough shape because of the Jeju Island raid. To sort this out without hurting her feelings, Jinwoo informs Ahijn that she has to pass the entrance test for their guild, which surprises Ahijn because the recruiting notice did not mention any kind of test. Jinwoo mentions that because they just made it, the vice president may have missed it, and asks Jinho to bring some snacks and drinks for Ahijn. Hae-in abruptly asks Jinwoo about the test, which surprises Jinwoo, who wonders if she is sincere about joining, or if her eagerness to take the test is motivated by her pride. Jinwoo informs Hae-in that she has to defeat Jinwoo's summoned beast. Hae-in, annoyed at being looked down upon, asks Jinwoo what kind of beast he is summoning, to which Jinwoo responds that he will select the strongest summon for Hunter Hae-in. Hae-in asks about the date and time for the test, to which Jinwoo responds that they can do it right now at the Hunter Association's gym, only to realize later that it is quite far from his place. However, Jinwoo decides to use this opportunity to see if they can move together using the Shadow Exchange skill. The Shadow Exchange skill allows Jinwoo to reverse the position of the specified Shadow Soldiers and the caster, and although this skill has a cooldown of 3 hours, it also depends largely on the skill level. Hae-in starts walking out of the office. However, Jinwoo tells her that they can go there quickly with the help of his skill. Jinwoo uses Shadow skill to reach the Hunter Association gym, which reverses his position with the Shadow Orc soldier. In the meantime, Jinho brings the snacks for Jinwoo and Hae-in, only to get greeted by the Shadow Orc, who eats all the sweets Jinho brought in one swoop. The scene then shifts to the Hunter Association gym, where Jinwoo has successfully arrived with Hae-in. As Jinwoo expected, the Shadow Exchange skill works like a gate, which means that Jinwoo can move with someone else through this gate as long as the entrance is Jinwoo's location, while the exit is his desired location to arrive at, which, in Jinwoo's case, would be the location of his Shadow Soldier. Jinwoo believes that despite there being a 3-hour cooldown, it is entirely possible to build a gate with skill, which would make it easier for Jinwoo to go to the other side of the world if needed. Jinwoo wants to start right away, however Hae-in mentions that she left her weapon at home, upon which Jinwoo takes a light gab at her, and asks Hae-in if she's referring to the pickaxe she brought in the dungeon raid. Hae-in, flustered, replies that she's talking about her sword. However, since she does not have it, they can use the weapons in the gym warehouse, which might have some spare weapons since it is a gym used by hunters, and although they are not up to the mark, they are quite suitable for some practice. Hae-in finds a suitable weapon and gets ready for Jinwoo's test. However, Jinwoo believes it might cause her problems since she is not used to the weapon. Hae-in responds that it does not matter what she uses, because the monsters do not follow their terms. Jinwoo then calls out Igris, the best swordsman in his army, because, judging from speculation, if Jinwoo calls out a normal soldier, it will be torn apart in no time. Although Jinwoo stated that he would summon the most powerful summon, he summoned Igris because he believes Beru would be too much for Hae-in. Hae-in, on the other hand, is curious how the match will be decided. Jinwoo responds that it will continue until Hae-in manages to destroy his summons or surrenders herself. Hae-in then takes her stance, but at that moment, Jinwoo remembers something, so he tells Hae-in to turn around for a moment and hands over the Demon King's long sword, an S-rank weapon, to Igris, since Hae-in herself said that weapons do not matter. The demon sword contains the power of the Demon King, Baran, and each time one wields this sword, the white flame storm effect occurs, which also summons a constantly thundering storm within a certain area. After making sure both of the fighters are ready, Jinwoo gives the signal to start the fight. Igris initiates the fight by sending a thunder slash towards Hae-in, which would be enough to kill a person even if it grazed them. Hae-in quickly dodges the attack and charges at Igris with a jump attack, which he manages to block using his sword. The scene then shifts to Chairman Gunhee, who is in his office working when he notices that the gym lights are on, wondering if someone made a gym reservation today. To find out who is using the gym, Chairman Gunhee contacts his subordinate and orders him to connect the live CCTV footage inside the gym to his room, which the subordinate immediately does. Chairman Gunhee finds out that the ones using the gym are none other than Son Jinwoo and Hae-in, which makes him glad. To make sure no one disturbs Hae-in's sparring session, Chairman Gunhee orders his subordinate to turn off all the CCTVs in the gym and write down that there was an inspection today. The scene then shifts to the Hunter Association gym, where Jinwoo is surprised to see Igris get whooped by Hae-in, who does not believe the Black Knight she just fought was Jinwoo's strongest summon and requests that he take out his strongest summon. Jinwoo is hesitant to do this out of fear of harming Hae-in. However, Hae-in is eager to fight the Ant King again. Jinwoo is surprised that Hae-in was aware of the Shadow Ant King, to which Hae-in responds that she saw it for herself and watched the recording to ensure what she saw was not a hallucination. Jinwoo, realizing that Hae-in is not going to listen, summons Beru and asks Hae-in again if she is certain she would be fine. When Jinwoo makes someone his shadow soldier, they become weaker than when they were alive. Nevertheless, Beru was born as a weapon solely to eliminate the hunters. Beru bows his head in front of Jinwoo and awaits his command, while Jinwoo orders Beru to defeat Hae-in in a way she does not get hurt. Beru, understanding what he needs to do, lets out a loud scream which destroys all the lighting in the association gym, which shocks Ahijn, and she wonders how Jinwoo was able to beat this monster. Beru takes out his claws, but Jinwoo immediately orders him to put those back, telling him that he would get punished if he hurts Ahijn. Seeing Beru absorbed talking to Jinwoo, Ahijn decides to take advantage of it. However, she is not even able to react when Beru suddenly appears before her. Ahijn realizes that it is the same attack pattern Beru used in the Jeju island raid, so she immediately swings her sword backward, only to see it get stopped by Beru's fingers, who wants to defeat Ahijn by not hurting her. Beru believes he can easily accomplish this by demonstrating the vast difference in their power, which will be more than enough to crush Ahijin's fighting spirit. Ahijn, who is not interested in listening to Beru's taunts, swings her sword quickly multiple times, but Beru dodges them all without moving an inch. Beru then screams loudly at Ahijn, which not only intimidates her, but also causes her to slide back quite far. Jinwoo thinks that this might be enough to decide the winner and asks Ahijn if she wants to stop now. However, to Jinwoo's surprise, Ahijn still wants to fight more. Jinwoo never thought Ahijn was this reckless, as despite knowing the gap in their strength, she had no intention of stopping. Jinwoo wishes for Ahijn to not make a misstep if she is aiming for a weak spot, for it would cost her a lot. Beru is different from the rest of the Shadow Soldiers because he has a murderous nature along with high intelligence, and one look at Beru would be more than enough to tell that he is greatly suppressing his intent to kill Ahijn. Beru, annoyed at Ahijn, informs her that his scream from a moment ago was an instinctive warning, which is enough for a predator to tell if his opponent is a predator or not. However, the way a predator stands against another predator is something Beru cannot tolerate. Beru charges again at Ahijn and attacks her with his claws despite Jinwoo's warning. Thankfully, Ahijn manages to dodge it and hits Beru with her skill, Sword Dance, but to no avail, as Beru again dodges Ahijin's attack with his bare hands, which ends up breaking Ahijin's practice sword. However, not everything is lost, for Ahijn still has a skill up her sleeve. Ahijn can only use this skill once because she lacks the necessary mana. However, she believes it should be enough to take Beru down. Ahijn uses her skill, Sword of Light, which pierces through Beru, shocking both Beru and Jinwoo. In that instance, Beru remembered the simple order that was given to him from the Queen at birth, which was to eliminate any enemy he gazed upon, and his instinct did not allow him to suppress it from re-emerging. Beru, out of sheer instinct, and despite Jinwoo's warning, considered Ahijn his enemy and took out his claws to slash through her. Jinwoo immediately orders Beru to stop, but Beru's wrath has taken over him, and he swings his arms at Ahijn. Fortunately, Jinwoo stops him at the right moment, reminding him that he was ordered to stop. Beru regains his senses, and after realizing his grave mistake, quickly flies back a few meters away from Ahijn. Jinwoo then shifts his attention towards Ahijn to see if she is injured anywhere, while Beru, on the other hand, touches his head on the ground and continues to beg for Jinwoo's mercy. Jinwoo asks Ahijn why she is pushing herself that hard to join a guild she is not obliged to join in the first place. Jinwoo reminds Ahijn that she was taking an unnamed test for his guild, and it is not worth it for someone of Ahijin's rank to risk her life to join this guild until or unless she has a good reason for doing so. Ahijn again goes silent, which annoys Jinwoo a bit, and after a bit of thinking, Jinwoo takes a guess and asks Ahijn if she is interested in him, as there is no other reason someone like Ahijn would risk their life to join Jinwoo's guild. Ahijn gets startled at such a direct question. However, after properly gathering her thoughts, she nods, telling Jinwoo that she is interested in him. The scene then shifts to the United States Hunter Management Agency, where Michael Connor is with Mrs. Sellner, apologizing to the director for not completing the task he assigned to him, to which the director responds that he did not call Connor to hear his apology, but rather he wants to hear what happened with Jinwoo. Connor informs that according to Mrs. Sellner's observation, Hunter Sung Jinwoo is supposed to be one of the Monarchs. The director gets shocked by this, and he asks Mrs. Sellner if, according to that information, they can assume Jinwoo's strength to be comparable to the powerhouses at the national level. Mrs. Sellner thinks that her answer needs some explanation and informs the director that all those who went through reawakening are connected to the power on the other side, because of which she can feel the connection of the reawakened people to the other side. Mrs. Sellner further mentions that in some cases the power from the other side in reawakened people is frighteningly strong to the point that it is terrifying, while some reawakened people even seem to pour out a dazzling light. Because of the sheer power shining from them, Mrs. Sellner started addressing them as monarchs, but in Jinwoo's case, there was no such light, and it was utterly dark. Mrs. Sellner, who is trembling after remembering the experience, informs the director that the moment she looked into Jinwoo's eyes, the darkness in him stared back at her, which made her feel as if Jinwoo is the holder of the darkness. After properly hearing Mrs. Sellner, the director asks if she considers Jinwoo to be a wicked man, to which Mrs. Sellner responds that she is not referring to Jinwoo's personality, but rather to the source of his power, which Jinwoo does not borrow from anyone. Mrs. Sellner continues, informing the director that Jinwoo's power does not come from the other side, and that if he is not using that power, he will not be limited by it, which means that there will soon be no limit to how strong Jinwoo can become. The director thanks Mrs. Sellner for her explanation and orders Connor to come with him to the 24th level of the basement. The director tells Connor that if they are not able to use Mrs. Sellner's power, then they will have to use another method to find out the source of Jinwoo's power. The director then asks Connor if he remembers the appearance of the first-class S-gate, to which Connor nods, telling the director that how can he forget the worst dungeon break in the history of the Hunters. As it blew up most of the western part of the US in that raid, out of all the world's strongest hunters that were brought in by the US by offering huge rewards, only 5 of them survived. So after the raid, the US gave these 5 the authority equal to that of a nation, which also marked the beginning of the nation-level hunters. Connor also mentions that during that raid, the dragon Kamish, who became famous as the inextinguishable flame, single-handedly massacred hundreds of top-class hunters. After Connor finishes the history lesson, the director informs him that the Kamish dragon actually left behind a small gift for them, which is a huge surprise to Connor. The director then opens a vault in which the association has stored the runestone that was found in Kamish's corpse. The director then tells Connor that since there were no mages amongst the national-level hunters, this rune has been waiting for its rightful owner in this basement for 8 years, and he believes that Kamish will once again give this country a valuable gift. The scene then shifts to Jinwoo, who is answering a very important question and is wondering if he is actually that handsome. Jinwoo notices that he is definitely taller and in better shape after reawakening, but despite that, he considers himself to be pretty average. Jinwoo also notices that the Will of Rehabilitation, which is a buff that restores all damaged body parts, has removed all his blemishes. Jinwoo asks his sister Gina for an honest opinion, who instead of answering Jinwoo's question, mocks him for having an unfounded confidence, telling Jinwoo that he looks like a bum to her. Jinwoo thanks Gina for such an objective answer by smacking her in the head, after which both of them have a sibling quarrel, which ends with Jinwoo reminding Gina that she will break her leg if she hits Jinwoo since he has an S-rank body. Jinwoo then tells Gina that he is going to create a guild, which amazes Gina because his brother is going to be the boss. Jinwoo then asks Gina if solo play would be a good name for their guild, to which Gina responds that it is not an accurate name since Jinwoo fights while summoning shadows, which means he is technically not alone. Jinwoo, realizing that his sister is actually right this time, asks Gina to suggest a name, to which Gina replies that he should name his guild Ahjin Guild. Gina suggested this name because it is her name backwards, with the characters Ah, meaning I, and Jin meaning to go forward, which makes it a good name. The scene then shifts to Hae-in, who is embarrassed after realizing that she basically confessed to Jinwoo, and now he will think of her as a crazy woman since Jinwoo told her that there was a better way to do this than joining her guild. Hae-in tries to justify her interest in Jinwoo by reminding herself that Jinwoo is her savior, but her rationale does not allow it, because strictly speaking, the reason Hae-in was able to survive is because of Min Byung-goo's abilities. As Hae-in is wondering about it, she hears someone's voice. Hae-in soon notices that there is a shadow that is continuously requesting Hae-in to tell Jinwoo to be careful of the power that lies within him. Hae-in gets shocked by this because she realizes that the shadow she just saw was of Min Byung-goo. The scene then shifts to the Knights Guild, where Park Jong-soo, the guild master of the Knights Guild, is informed of a new gate that appeared yesterday. But despite the gate appearing in their area, it would be difficult for the Knights Guild to get a raid permit for it, because according to the Hunters Association, the gate's rank is quite high. Park Jong-soo asks his subordinate if it is an S-rank gate, to which the subordinate shakes his head, telling Park Jong-soo that it is said to be close to an S-rank gate, which means that they will all end up dead in there if they do not raid it carefully. The subordinate mentions that if it were an S-rank gate, giving it up would be the best option because they lack the actual manpower to form an assault squad for even an A-rank gate, but because they are one of the country's 5 major guilds, if they fail to clear it, people may begin to speak negatively about the Knights Guild. Park Jong-soo mentions that the reason for that is most people think A to E rank gates are all the same. To deal with this problem, the subordinate mentions that they should give this guild to the Fame Guild, as they would jump at the opportunity if they passed on this gate. However, there is no way Park Jong-soo would just spoon-feed Ma Dongwook, the guild master of the Fame Guild, as a gate that spawned right in front of their yard. Park Jong-soo believes that their A-rank hunters are by no means inferior to A ranks from the other major guilds in terms of numbers and skills. The only thing that sets the Knights Guild back is the lack of an S-rank hunter. To deal with this problem, Young Yerim, an A-rank healer of the Knights Guild, suggests that they should just form an alliance with another guild. However, Park Jong-soo does not think it would work because there is no way another guild would agree when it is obvious that the Knights Guild is only asking for help because they do not have the manpower to clear the gate by themselves. Young Yerim suggests that this problem can be solved by asking an individual person rather than a guild, but Park Jong-soo does not believe that having a single S-rank hunter will make a significant difference in their manpower because the gate they are facing is a top-tier gate. However, at that point, Park Jong-soo recalls Jinwoo, the only S-rank hunter who can solve this problem. Park Jong-soo seems on board with this suggestion because creating an alliance with another guild might give them a bad name, but if it is Hunter Sung Jinwoo, the public might end up acknowledging the Knights Guild for joining forces with him. Moreover, the Knights Guild would have a better chance at safely clearing this raid. Due to that, Park Jong-soo agrees to form an alliance with Jinwoo and asks about his whereabouts, to which his subordinate mentions that Jinwoo recently cleared a gate that spawned in the middle of a highway, but other than that, he has been keeping a low profile. The subordinate asks Park Jong-soo if they should contact Jinwoo, to which Park Jong-soo shakes his head, telling his subordinate that it would not be right to handle such an important matter over the phone. Rather, they should pay Jinwoo a visit. The scene then shifts to Jinwoo, who asks Yoo Jin-ho if they should name their guild the Ajin Guild, to which Jin-ho, who really does not like the ring of the solo play guild, immediately nods, telling Jinwoo that it sounds quite wonderful. Now they have decided on a name. Jinwoo mentions that all they have to do is recruit one last founding member, which surprises Jin-ho because he was sure that Hunter Cha Hae-in would be the last founding member. However, Jinwoo does not believe Cha Hae-in is the right fit for their guild and she is not the member Jinwoo is looking for. Jin-ho gets startled by this and wonders who would be a better candidate than Cha Hae-in, for she is one of the youngest S-rank hunters with an impressive record. Jin-ho asks Jinwoo what kind of person he is looking for as a founding member, to which Jinwoo responds that he wants someone with a hunter's license, who has no interest in joining a guild but is still trustworthy. A couple of people come to Jin-ho's mind that fit this criteria. However, as he is thinking about them, there is a knock on the door. Jinwoo opens the door, wondering if it's Cha Hae-in, only to be greeted by Park Jong-soo, the guild master of the Knights Guild, who is with his subordinate and A-rank healer Jung Yerim, wearing a weird smile in front of Jinwoo. Jinwoo, confused at their arrival, welcomes them, upon which Park Jong-soo informs him about the gate that has appeared in Busan City. Although a gate's size is not always relative to its rank, Park Jong-soo mentions that the amount of mana emitting from this gate matches its giant size. Jinwoo asks if the Hunter Association declared this gate as an S-rank 1, to which Park Jong-soo shakes his head and informs Jinwoo that it was almost deemed as immeasurable, as it is the largest gate to ever appear in Busan City. Jinwoo, understanding he is in Busan, wonders if he should meet up with Juhee and asks her to treat him to some sushi. While Jinwoo is lost in his thoughts of sashimi, Park Jong-soo mentions that the Hunters Association is refusing to give the Knights Guild any permit because they think that the raid would be too risky because there are no S-rank hunters in the Knights Guild. However, Park Jong-soo tells Jinwoo that the Hunters Association may give them permission if Jinwoo joins their assault team. Park Jong-soo promises to generously compensate Jinwoo and informs him that they are willing to pay him 20% of the profit, despite the fact that when a major guild raids a dungeon, an S-rank hunter typically receives 10% of the profits. However, Jinwoo does not believe this is a good deal and decides to work with Park Jong-soo if they are willing to give him 50% of the profits. Park Jong-soo gets startled after hearing this. However, Jinwoo tells Park Jong-soo that he is in the process of founding a guild called Ajin and will only team up with the Knights Guild if Park Jong-soo treats Jinwoo as a guild rather than an individual hunter. Park Jong-soo tries to negotiate and promises Jinwoo 40% of the profit, but Jinwoo refuses to negotiate, which surprises Park Jong-soo because he considered Jinwoo to be a pushover. Park Jong-soo agrees to Jinwoo's demands on the condition that Jinwoo defeat the dungeon boss, which Jinwoo accepts without any objection. Park Jong-soo tells Jinwoo that they should raid the gate tomorrow because it has been discovered for quite some time, and offers Jinwoo a ride down to Busan. But Jinwoo declines his offer as he has plans today, and promises to meet Park Jong-soo in Busan tomorrow. As Jinwoo starts walking out of his office, Park Jong-soo's subordinate notices that Jinwoo's shadow moved just now, but Park Jong-soo tells him that he is just imagining things. Jinwoo then receives a call from an unknown number, which turns out to be his mother's, who contacted him after receiving a new phone to hear his voice. Park Kyung-hee asks Jinwoo if he contacted him at a busy time, to which Jinwoo says that he just got off work and informs his mother that he'll join them for dinner tonight because it's been a while. The next day at Gwangali Beach in Busan, the whole assault team of the Night Guild is waiting for Jinwoo while standing in front of the gate they are about to raid. Park Jong-soo thinks that he should have just forced Jinwoo to come with them today, for the raid is about to start in 5 minutes and Jinwoo is still not here. Jinwoo, on the other hand, comes out of his house only to discover that the weather is bad today, which makes him worry if Gina took an umbrella with her. To make sure he keeps his promise with Park Jong-soo, Jinwoo uses his shadow exchange skill to go to Busan. The scene then shifts to a school where 3 students are walking down the hallway, complaining about their teacher for dumping his own work on his students, as they have to make 2 trips to bring the plaster busts to the class. And what makes this chore worse is the dust in the room where they are supposed to get the plaster busts from, which makes them conclude that this room must not have been cleaned since the last term. As the 3 students are looking for the plaster busts, they notice that there is a gate right in front of them, which surprises them. However, one of them tells his friends to relax as this gate is closed, and it will take at least a week for this gate to open, which means it is completely safe. The student further adds that they do not have to worry about the gate because hunters are the only ones that can pass through here, and nothing inside can get out of it. Despite the explanation, the students are still confused about the gate, and as they are wondering, a hand emerges from the gate and snatches one of the students' heads, crushing it like a juice box. The 2 monsters that emerged from the gate were natural predators, who, while lacking intelligence, far outperformed humans in their ability to track and hunt prey. These 2 monsters were extremely excited by the smell of flesh and blood. However, because they were in charge of scouting, they suppressed their instincts and focused on their mission. To accomplish this, they had remained hidden in the dark, and before they could even concentrate on looking for prey, their 6th sense was activated, and they charged out of the gate to crush the 3 students. The monsters quickly realized that this place is teeming with prey, and there are 2 floors above them full of humans. The monsters, with their sharp instincts, realized they were inside a structure as complex as a castle. One of the monsters decides to go in first and start dealing with these humans, and orders the other monster to go back to the gate and call for the rest of their brothers. The monsters plan to begin the real hunt after murdering all the humans in this castle and fortifying their position. The monster starts with the floor he is standing on and immediately crushes the 2 students that were in front of him. The scene then shifts to Jinwoo, who is surprised at the huge size of the gate. Jinwoo then observes the hauling and mining teams, which are stationed properly on their respective sides, and notices that the Knights Guild's assault team consists of 13 A ranks and 20 B ranks. Jinwoo is amazed to see the number of A rank hunters in the assault, which he thinks is to be expected from a guild that has the highest number of A ranks under their command. As he is standing there observing the Knights Guild, many of the hunters of the Knights Guild start fanboying over Jinwoo and start bombarding him with praises and various questions. Their fanboying, however, is short-lived, for they get stopped by Hunter Jung Yerim, the main healer of the Knights Guild's elite assault team. Jung Yerim, as the main healer, tells Jinwoo that they should get along since Jinwoo is the leader of this raid. However, Jinwoo believes there is a misunderstanding, for the leader of the raid is Park Jong-soo. The Knights Guild hunters, however, are not pleased with this revelation, for they want Jinwoo to be their raid leader. To make them feel better, Park Jong-soo tells them that Jinwoo will be in charge of the backline to make sure everyone is safe. However, one of the hunters of the Knights Guild does not think they need any protection and asks Jinwoo if the members of this elite assault team seem that weak to him. Park Jong-soo tells Jinwoo not to worry about their hunters, as they are pretty gutsy and can say offensive things, but they cannot help it, as that is how things roll here. Jinwoo does not mind it a bit, as it just means the hunters of the Knights Guild are confident in their abilities. Park Jong-soo then tells everyone to get prepared as they are going to jump into the gate. The scene then shifts to the Hunters Association emergency call center, where a lady at the helpline receives a call from a student about the dungeon break inside the school. The lady asks the student about their location, to which the student responds that she is hiding in the bathroom. The lady at the helpline asks the student if there are monsters nearby, but the student, who is barely keeping her wits, does not know anything about that and is scared of death. Everyone at the emergency call center gets alert after listening to this call. The lady tells the student to calm down and informs her that the hunters are heading there right now and they will never abandon the students, so she needs to stay calm until the very end. The lady then asks about the type of monsters that are rampaging in their school and tells her to describe their characteristics. The student responds that the monsters are human-like but have ugly faces along with the green skin. The lady at the helpline gets shocked because the description matches the orcs and tells the student to get away from the bathroom because orcs can smell the humans. However, it's too late, for the orcs have already found the student, and the last thing everyone at the helpline hears are screams and cries. The scene shifts to the school, where students are running outside the school for their lives, while some of them are worrying about their friend and want to go back to save them. The orcs, who invaded the school on the other hand, are not happy at the escape of half of their prey. However, there are still many students left, and because they have blocked their escape path, it would be easier to kill them. The students on the upper floor have used whatever they can to make sure the door to their class does not open, but there is no way that some chairs would be able to stop the orcs. The orcs break the door with one hit, sending the chairs and tables flying towards the students and enter the class without any issue. One of the students tries to save his life by escaping through the opposite door, only to get greeted by another orc who chops him in half. One of the orcs tells his boss that there is a human with magic energy, to which his boss orders him to kill that human. Unfortunately, Gina and Han Song-yi are also in the same class, and Gina is desperately wishing for her brother Sung Jinwoo to come and save her. Song-yi, despite being an E-rank hunter, is preparing herself to fight the orcs. As an awakened, she cannot back off. However, Gina stops her from fighting them. The orcs notice that besides Song-yi, there is a greater magic energy source, which unfortunately turns out to be Gina, so they rush to kill her first. However, their attack is stopped by Jinwoo's High Orc Shadow Soldier, who stops the orc's attack with one hand and sends him flying out of the school with one punch. It turns out that Jinwoo had placed 3 High Orc Shadow Soldiers to protect his sister, who now gets ready to deal with the orcs who come near Gina. The scene then shifts to the Knights Guild assault team, who, after entering the dungeon, is welcomed by a twin-headed ogre that rushes to attack the assault team. Park Jong-soo blocks the attack by the two-headed ogre, which allows Yoon-tae to charge in and blind the two-headed ogre, making it easy for the rest of the attack team to deal with it. With the assistance of the mages, the Knights of the Knights Guild defeat one ogre after much effort. Park Jong-soo realizes that this raid will be difficult because a twin-headed ogre from the start is bad news. Twin-headed ogres are known as gravekeepers, which is not a problem when it is the boss, but if it appears at the entrance, the dungeon will be full of the undead. Just as Park Jong-soo said those words, a whole army of undead appeared in front of them, which panicked Yoon-tae. However, for some reason, the undead seemed to be acting weird, as instead of attacking the assault team, they were backing off, which made the hunters of the Knights Guild wonder if the undead were being chased by someone. Jinwoo, on the other hand, is not impressed by the difficulty of the dungeon, even though it was supposed to be the hardest A-rank dungeon. At that very moment, Jinwoo notices that something is wrong with his shadows outside the dungeon, so he decides to leave, telling Park Jong-soo that he has an urgent matter he needs to take care of. Park Jong-soo gets shocked by this and tells Jinwoo to stay here, as it could be dangerous for them without Jinwoo. However, Jinwoo assures them to call on someone Park Jong-soo can trust just as much as he trusts Jinwoo. Jinwoo then summons Beru and tells Park Jong-soo that he will take care of things in his place. The hunters of the Knights Guild, along with Park Jong-soo, get shocked to see one of the ants from Jeju Island, which makes things easier for Jinwoo, as he does not need to explain anything to them. Jinwoo orders Beru to protect the humans and leaves the non-humans at Beru's mercy. Beru lets out a loud scream, which intimidates the hunters of the Knights Guild, while the one who was joking with Jinwoo a while ago realizes that he joked with the wrong person. Jinwoo also leaves 20 shadow soldiers besides Beru, but Park Jong-soo and Jung Yerim do not like the idea of letting those shadow monsters loose. Jinwoo intimidatingly stares at them and responds that if they like, Jinwoo can recall these shadow soldiers before he leaves the dungeon, but they would be better off with them. Park Jong-soo and Jung Yerim, frightened by Jinwoo's stare, nod their heads, telling Jinwoo that he is right. After getting done with the preparations here, Jinwoo checks his shadow exchange skill to see if he can use that, but unfortunately, it still has about 2 hours of cooldown remaining. Realizing that he has no time to waste, Jinwoo rushes towards the dungeon's exit, while the hunters of the Knights Guild are bamboozled to see Jinwoo leave them helpless like that. The reason Jinwoo suddenly decided to leave the dungeon is because he is getting constant signals from the soldiers with Gina, which is not a good thing. As he is running, Jinwoo's path gets blocked by the undead soldiers, so he takes out his daggers to swoop them. However, to his surprise, the undead themselves open a path for Jinwoo, which makes Jinwoo wonder if it is because he is a higher class necromancer than what controls the undead. Jinwoo takes out his wyvern Kaisel and tells him to fly at full speed towards Gina's location. The scene then shifts to Gina's school, where Jinwoo's shadow soldiers are cutting the orcs like carrots, and after some time, they are able to deal with the orcs that came with the classroom. The students in the class are taken aback when they see the monsters defending them, but Gina recognizes the shadow soldiers and wonders if her brother has come to help her. Gina wants to leave the classroom to look for Jinwoo, but she is stopped by a shadow soldier, who informs her that there are many orcs approaching this class. The scene shifts to the assembly of the great orc warriors, where Guruktaru, the chieftain of the Red Blade tribe, is informed that the final restraints have been lifted, which means he can now enter the human world without any worries. One of the orc warriors informs Guruktaru about the 3 high orcs that are helping the humans. Guruktaru is disgusted to find out that the great orc warriors are incapable of taking care of 3 high orcs and orders them to lead the way so that he can deal with them himself, as it is time for them to slaughter everyone. However, the same cannot be said about the hunters of the Knights Guild, as they are hesitating to move even an inch after seeing Jinwoo's shadow soldiers, and the only thing they want to do is to go out because those monsters released by Jinwoo can see the hunters as enemies at any point. Yoon-tae asks Park Jong-soo about their next move. Park Jong-soo realizes that they cannot stop the raid here, because if they do, then they would have to deal with the reporters outside the gate, which would be quite hard for them. Park Jong-soo thinks that there is no way they can stop their raid just because they are afraid of summons, and decides to keep going, only to get scared by Beru, who appears in front of Park Jong-soo out of nowhere. Beru vanishes from Park Jong-soo's eyes for a moment and drops something towards Park Jong-soo, after which he orders the rest of the shadow soldiers to start moving. Seeing Park Jong-soo scared, his guild members ask if it would be okay to follow those monsters, upon which Park Jong-soo tells them to take a look at the head of the Death Knight, which was dropped by Beru. Park Jong-soo is amazed to find out that Beru was able to kill the highest ranked monster in an instant, and tells everyone that there is no way they can quit raiding this dungeon since they would be losing all the valuable magic cores from high-ranked monsters. However, Park Jong-soo does not need to convince his guild members anymore since they are already on the move to gather more valuable magic cores from the monsters killed by Jinwoo's shadow army. However, things are not going well outside the dungeon, for Guruktaru is giving a tough time to Jinwoo's shadow soldiers. Guruktaru mentions that an orc's tattoos are symbols of victory, and the large number of tattoos on his body are proof of how many enemies he has killed up until now. Guruktaru mocks the high orc shadow soldier fighting him for having fewer tattoos and continues to attack him, which gets blocked by another shadow soldier who decides to join the fight. Guruktaru praises the high orc soldier for blocking his sword, but it is no use, for he slashes the shadow soldier in one swing. However, to his surprise, the shadow soldiers continue to regenerate one after another, and no matter how much he cuts through them, nothing changes. And even though Guruktaru can kill these shadow soldiers over 1,000 times, he does not have time because the voice in Guruktaru's head, which is constantly telling him to kill humans, is annoying him and causing him a lot of pain, which is only getting worse over time. Guruktaru concludes that if they are moving because of magic, then all he needs to do is take care of the controller, whom he believes is Gina, so he orders his orc warriors to grab Gina. The high orcs are powerless while they regenerate, so Guruktaru tells his soldiers to restrict their movements by continuously attacking them. The orc warriors continuously attack the shadow soldiers one after another, which makes it easy for Guruktaru to grab Gina, who was about to escape with Songyi. Guruktaru, after concluding that there is indeed magic power coming from Gina, decides to crush her head with his bare hands. However, at that very moment, Guruktaru's sharp instincts tell him about something terrifying that is coming towards them swiftly. Guruktaru gets scared to the point he lets go of Gina and tells his orc soldiers to brace for impact. However, it is too late, for Jinwoo, who was able to intimidate Guruktaru from far away, crashes into the room with Kaisel and pats Gina, telling her to not worry as she is safe now. Guruktaru is close to shitting his pants after seeing Jinwoo right in front of him. However, he tries his best to introduce himself, only to get shut off by Jinwoo, who orders Guruktaru to wait for his turn. Jinwoo takes his time to make sure that Gina, Songyi, and the rest of her classmates are in good condition. Songyi notices that Jinwoo is in a very bad mood this time, which gets a lot worse when Jinwoo notices marks of grabbing on Gina's face. Jinwoo orders Igris, his trustworthy knight, to take care of Gina and tasks the rest of the shadow soldiers to take the soldiers and head down first. One of the orc warriors moves an inch, seeing Jinwoo busy, but Jinwoo looks at them intimidatingly and tells them not to move. Guruktaru, who is barely keeping his wits, realizes that he was wrong about High Orcs being Gina's soldiers and asks Jinwoo about his identity and how he is able to speak their tongue. After getting silent treatment from Jinwoo, Guruktaru realizes that Jinwoo has no intention of answering, so he immediately orders his orc warriors to attack Jinwoo, but there is no way things are going to go their way anymore. Jinwoo crushes the hands of the orc warrior who attacked him first and slams the orc warrior to the ground while he was busy screaming. Jinwoo then uses his skill, Dominator's Touch, to dominate the rest of the orcs in the class, after which he focuses his attention towards the Guruktaru. Jinwoo pins Guruktaru to the wall and glances over the massacre that Guruktaru and his brethren did. Jinwoo asks Guruktaru why their kind wants to kill humans to such an extreme extent, to which Guruktaru responds that there is a voice in their heads constantly telling them to kill humans, which is why they had to do so. Jinwoo inquires whether the same voice instructs Guruktaru to kill Jinwoo. However, Guruktaru does not respond and instead asks Jinwoo to forgive him. Jinwoo, realizing that he is not considered a human even in the eyes of the monsters, equips his dagger and promises Guruktaru that he will forgive him. However, the process will not be easy for Guruktaru. The scene then shifts to the dungeon, where Jung Yerim is playing tug-of-war with one of Jinwoo's shadow soldiers, who is trying to eat the vampires, and in the process, he gets hurt. Beru scolds the shadow soldier for hurting the human, and heals Beru, which immediately heals him. Jung Yerim gets surprised to see a summon cast better healing magic than himself, who is an A-rank hunter. After little to no struggle, the Knights Guild finally manages to enter the boss room, where they are greeted by the boss, who is an arch-lich that has more than 10 Death Knights under his command. Park Jong-soo recalls that among the many bosses of the dungeons, the Arch-Lich is famous for the Gold Dragon Guild's annihilation, which was one of China's top guilds that completely got annihilated by the Arch-Lich and caused a dungeon break. Fortunately, it did not turn into a catastrophe due to Liu Zhigang. However, it is nearly impossible for any normal A-rank to defeat it, and given that the Knights Guild is full of A-ranks, it would be an impossible task for them. Yuntae inquires about their next move, and while they are thinking about it, one of the knights informs them that the undead who were not eaten by the ants have come back to life and are approaching from behind. Park Jong-soo orders Jung Yerim to immediately block the door, which he does so by activating his skill, Holy Wall. However, Jung Yerim would only be able to hold this for 5 minutes. These events make Park Jong-soo realize why this dungeon was said to be the hardest A-rank dungeon. As they are worrying about what to do next, Beru enters the room, which shocks the Arch-Lich, as he does not understand why the Monarch's personal army is attacking them, to which Beru laughs, telling the Arch-Lich that he was just not worthy enough to be chosen by the Monarch. Arch-Lich cannot believe this, and decides to personally report this to the Monarch. However, as he is complaining about the unfairness, Beru appears right in front of him and pierces his torso, telling Arch-Lich that he is talking way too much for someone who is about to kick the bucket. Beru drags the Arch-Lich with his attack and pins him to the wall, after which Beru finally takes out his core and breaks it, causing all the undead to be free of the Arch-Lich's magic. The hunters of the Knights Guild are shocked to see Beru kill the Arch-Lich in one hit, a feat that is even hard for an S-rank. Seeing 20 shadow soldiers clear the dungeon along with Beru, Yuntae comments that Jinwoo does not even need to enter the dungeon to clear it, as he can just do the deed by sending his summons. Park Jong-soo believes that controlling so many summons would consume a large amount of magic energy, so Jinwoo may not be able to use all of his summons at the same time. But given that Jinwoo uses half as many summons as the one here, it is enough to place Jinwoo higher than any other guild in the country. Yuntae, after witnessing what Jinwoo is capable of doing as a hunter, suggests that they should push ahead with merging their guild with Jinwoo's guild. However, Park Jong-soo tells him to refer to it as an alliance, but Park Jong-soo also believes that the alliance between the new guild created by the best hunter and one of the 5 major guilds in the country sounds nice. Yuntae, on the other hand, believes that this alliance will not occur because Jinwoo does not require the Knights Guild, to which Park Jong-soo responds that Jinwoo may be the strongest hunter capable of clearing a dungeon with his summons, but he cannot bend the law for guild activities, telling Yuntae that Jinwoo must still meet the minimum headcount for the raid team. Park Jong-soo mentions that Jinwoo has to fulfill these basic requirements, and that is where the Knights Guild comes in, who would act as Jinwoo's supporting force, while Jinwoo would be the assault team's manpower. This method, although perfect, does not sit right with Yoontae, who believes that they would be leeching off of Jinwoo. However, Park Jong-soo tells Yoontae to consider it as the Knights Guild, giving Jinwoo reliable support. The scene then shifts to the school, where the parents are crying over their children that are still stuck in school, while others are weeping over the dead corpses of their poor children, creating havoc outside the school. Jinwoo, who managed to save some of them, is with President Geunhye, who informs Jinwoo that the 213 students who escaped in the beginning are all safe. However, the actual number of students that got saved is 10, while the rest of the students who failed to escape in time are all dead. President Geunhye believes that if they had taken necessary measures, this accident could have been predicted and prevented easily. President Geunhye then shows Jinwoo the graph, which shows the increase in the gate activity around Seoul for the last 6 months, which also shows the worldwide statistics of the increasing number of gates. President Geunhye mentions that the number of gates appearing has spiked up noticeably throughout the world. However, that is not the only strange thing, for as more monsters appear from the gates, the number of hunters who can block the gates is also increasing, and many people are waiting to confirm their awakened rankings. The president thinks that there is some sort of balance that is being maintained with this increasing number of gates and hunters. Jinwoo also believes that something is starting to change, and wonders if President Geunhye called him to discuss this strange phenomenon with Jinwoo. But to his surprise, President Geunhye hands Jinwoo the official documents from the nations that want to make contact with Jinwoo. And although President Geunhye is certain that some of them even made unofficial contact with Jinwoo, he cannot do anything to stop them, as the Hunters Association has no right to block these people. The only thing the Hunters Association can do is protect Jinwoo's personal information at his request. In the end, everything is up to Jinwoo's decision, but President Geunhye states that if Jinwoo leaves Korea for another country, Korea will be unable to adapt to new challenges. President Geunhye then drops Jinwoo off at the hospital where his sister is being treated, and before they both leave, President Geunhye requests Jinwoo to stay in Korea, assuring him that they will give him whatever he wants as long as it is within their reach. President Geunhye laments the fact that they have lost 3 S-rank hunters out of 10, 2 of whom died at the hands of monsters, and 1 who fled Korea for America, making it difficult for the Hunters Association to remain lenient because they must do everything possible to play their part. Realizing that he can ask for whatever he wants, Jinwoo asks President Geunhye if he can be granted permission to enter the high-ranking gates all by himself in the future. The president gets shocked at this and asks Jinwoo if he wants to be excluded from the minimum headcount rule, to which Jinwoo nods his head, asking the president if it would be possible to do that. President Geunhye responds that the headcount regulation is the minimum safety net for the hunters, and it was introduced as a policy to prevent hunters from losing their lives by entering the dungeon without preparation. While he is explaining to Jinwoo the minimum headcount rule, President Geunhye realizes something and asks Jinwoo if the reason he made a guild is to raid dungeons alone, to which Jinwoo nods his head, asking President Geunhye if it would be difficult to fulfill the request. President Geunhye tells Jinwoo that it is not impossible to grant this request and assures Jinwoo to leave everything to him. The scene then shifts to Jinho, who asks his cousin Yoo Soo-hyun that instead of being trapped and acting as a public relations person for her father's guild, she should join Jinwoo's guild, as Yoo Soo-hyun just has to leave her name on their guild's employee list and do whatever she wants. Yoo Soo-hyun does not understand why Jinho is suddenly talking about a guild and asks Jinho how he knew that she was coming to Korea. Jinho responds that he knows all about Soo-hyun's work schedule and informs Soo-hyun that they are short of 1 founding member for their guild. Hearing Jinho asking her to join a guild that is not even created, Soo-hyun asks him if he is being swindled by some shady person, to which Jinho scoffs, telling Soo-hyun that she will be shocked when she finds out the person he is working for. Jinho introduces Jinwoo to Soo-hyun, telling Jinwoo that she is an A-rank hunter. Soo-hyun, who is a celebrity herself, is surprised to meet the real Jinwoo and remembers Jinwoo as the hunter who immediately disappeared after ruining Lee Min-sung's press interview. However, Jinho mentions that she is getting surprised by the wrong things. Jinwoo, on the other hand, is amazed to see Jinho, who is a D-rank hunter, has a cousin who is an A-rank hunter, and wonders if there is a condition to being awakened that is passed down through genes. Jinwoo recalls that there are also cases where siblings are awakened together, and his father was also a hunter, which proves his point. Jinwoo asks Yoo Soo-hyun if she has heard everything about their guild from Jinho, to which Yoo Soo-hyun nods her head, telling Jinwoo that Jinho informed him that they were missing a founding member for their guild. Jinwoo asks Soo-hyun if she is okay with various articles being published about her, to which Soo-hyun responds that it is far preferable to getting mixed up with Yoo Jin-sung, Jinho's older brother, who has a very bad personality. As they are talking, Yoo Soo-hyun, out of nowhere, asks Jinwoo if he can take a selfie with her so that Soo-hyun can upload it to her SNS profile. The scene then shifts to President Gun-hee, who is having a meeting with Jun-wook and the rest of the officials of the Hunters Association, where Jun-wook objects to considering Jinwoo's summoned creatures as members of a raid team to solve the issue of Jinwoo not having a minimum headcount to raid the gate. Jun-wook mentions that President Gun-hee is giving preferential treatment to Jinwoo, who has barely finished creating his guild, by presenting this nonsensical regulation. Jun-wook reminds President Gun-hee that the Hunters Association should be fair to all the hunters and the guilds, and they should not help out Jinwoo like that. President Gun-hee does not deny that he is giving Jinwoo special treatment. Rather, he owns it with pride and asks everyone present in the meeting if they would prefer to accompany an assault team comprising 20 A-rank hunters or a team comprising Hunter Sung Jinwoo. President Gun-hee does not wait for anyone's answer, as it should be obvious, and asks Jun-wook why he moved to an apartment building near the Hunters Guild, where the cost of housing is several times higher than the one he was previously living in. Jun-wook is taken aback, responding that his shifting is unrelated to this, but President Gun-hee objects, telling Jun-wook that it is obvious he did it for his own safety, which is normal, as every Korean citizen wishes to relocate to safer cities. President Gun-hee tells Jun-wook that many countries are doing everything in their power to steal Jinwoo for their own safety, and if things go on like this, the Hunters Association cannot expect Jinwoo to remain here when they cannot even fulfill one of his requirements. President Gun-hee asks everyone at the meeting if they want to see the incident with Hwang Dong-soo repeating all over again, warning everyone that they should carefully think about how and who would save the lives of the people when another S-rank gate opens in this country. The scene then shifts to Ahijn, whose mood worsens after seeing Jinwoo take a selfie with Yoo Soo-hyun, who has recently joined the Ajin Guild. The Ajin Guild is about to do their first guild raid, and Jinho is shocked to see a huge gate for the first time in his life, as he has to really look high up to just see the whole gate. Jinwoo wonders what would have been Jinho's reaction had he seen the gate in Busan. Jinwoo tells Jinho that it is time to move, but as they are entering the gate, Jinwoo gets swarmed by the reporters, who want to ask Jinwoo about his thoughts on Ajin Guild's first raid. Jinwoo is surprised to see this much crowd and asks Jinchul, who is here to make sure everything is okay, if they were not protecting his information. Jinchul responds that although they can protect Jinwoo's personal information, they cannot do much about the location of a gate, telling Jinwoo that in the future, he should not post on SNS to avoid this. Realizing it is the consequence of his own actions, Jinwoo assures to be careful from now on. Jinho, on the other hand, tells Jinwoo that they should hire some retrieval or mining teams, since Jinho would not be able to do it all alone. Jinwoo tells Jinho to not worry about that, as his summons will take care of all those tasks. Jinchul then measures the ranks of Jinwoo's shadow soldiers and finds out that all of Jinwoo's summons are rank B or higher, which surprises Jinchul, and he concludes that the people who are arguing over giving Jinwoo preferential treatment are idiots, for Jinwoo easily exceeds the requirements for earning a raid permit for gates like these. Jinchul informs Jinwoo that he is finished with the confirmation. However, because the association president has ordered him to find out whether it is really safe during Hunter Jinwoo's raids, Jinchul asks Jinwoo if it would be alright to accompany him on the raid. Jinwoo asks Jinchul if he really wants to do this. However, Jinchul does not understand why Jinwoo is asking him that question until Jinchul actually gets inside the dungeon, where he gets shocked to see an A-rank Naga get humiliated by Jinwoo's shadow army. Jinchul is bamboozled at such a sight, for even veteran mage-type hunters and close combat warriors would have a difficult time with an A-rank Naga, but here, the Naga are losing to the shadow army's constant regeneration. Out of all these summons, Igris catches Jinchul's attention the most because he can shoot lightning every time he swings his sword, which is impossible for mages with a lot of magical energy. Igris sweeps the floor with Naga, evaporating them in an instant, leading Jinchul to believe that Igris has already surpassed A-rank and wonders if he could win a one-on-one fight against him. Jinwoo, on the other hand, is ensuring that his shadow soldiers are not slacking off while mining the crystals, and he occasionally prevents the ants from consuming monster corpses. Jinchul, who is closely observing all of this, finally understands why the association president asked him to observe Jinwoo, because Jinwoo is not a simple one-man raid team, for not only is he able to clear an A-rank dungeon, but he is also able to retrieve monster corpses and mine magic crystals all by himself. After reaching the boss, Jinwoo cancels summoning for everyone except for the shadow soldiers that are working, which surprises Jinchul, for he now knows that Jinwoo's summons are more than capable of defeating the boss. Jinwoo responds that if he continues to rely too much on summons, his skills would become rusty and he would grow weak. Jinwoo equips his dagger and jumps right in front of the Naga King, effectively dodging his attack in the process. Jinwoo then effortlessly slices the head of the Naga in half in one move and manages to clear the dungeon all by himself. With this kill, Jinwoo reaches level 101 and his job-specific skills such as Shadow Extraction, Save Shadow, Domain of the Monarch, and Shadow Exchange also level up. Jinwoo notices that his Shadow Exchange skills cooldown has been reduced by an hour as a result of the level up, which means that if Jinwoo levels it up further, he will no longer have to worry about his mother's or Gina's lives being in danger, as he will be able to reach them no matter where he is in the world. Jinchul, on the other hand, is awestruck by Jinwoo's abilities, as he was able to pierce the scales of a Naga, which are strong enough to be used to create armor and shields with just 2 daggers. However, Jinchul has yet to see the most important part of the show. Jinwoo uses his skill to successfully make the dungeon's boss his Shadow Soldier, which also upgrades the Shadow, transforming Naga King into a level 13 Shadow Soldier. Naga King's rank is the same as Tusk, and because he is a level 13 Shadow Soldier, his power is similar to the original. However, it has shrunk a lot, which is unique because shadows usually stay the same or get bigger. Jinwoo notices that despite being small, the magic energy emerging from the Naga King is massive and is quite similar to that of Tusk, which makes Jinwoo conclude that he might have enlarged himself with magic, and what Jinwoo is seeing right now is its original size. However, regardless of size, it is quite a great addition to the Shadow Army. Jinwoo names the newly acquired Shadow Soldier Jima, and soon after that, the dungeon starts to collapse. So Jinho, who is amazed to see Jinwoo turn a strong soldier into his summon, tells Jinwoo that they should leave the dungeon now. Jinwoo orders Tusk to lift the huge corpse of the Naga King, and they walk out of the dungeon gate. The reporters, who were waiting for Jinwoo to come out, are shocked to see Jinwoo clear an A-rank dungeon that quickly and start taking pictures of Tusk, who seems to be fond of getting this much attention. Jinwoo and Jinho are both surprised at the reaction of news reporters to their first raid. However, Jinwoo is not fond of being at the center of the stage. The scene then shifts to Jinchul, who informs President Gunhee about everything that happened in the dungeon, and after listening to what Jinchul said, President Gunhee tells Jinchul that any veteran of his status would be surprised. Jinchul tells President Gunhee that what he saw was not a raid, but rather a one-sided massacre. President Gunhee realizes that Jinchul is not feeling well, so he tells him to go home and get some nice rest. Just like Jinchul, President Gunhee also believes that calling Jinwoo a one-man raid team is an understatement. Rather, it would be better to consider Jinwoo a guild in and of himself. President Gunhee is glad that his eyes did not misjudge Jinwoo's true worth and believes that the world's hunter list will soon be turned upside down. The scene then shifts to Japan, where in the city of Tokyo, everything and everyone on the road came to a sudden halt, and in the silence, what appeared in front of their eyes was a magnanimous black gate, to the point that calling a gate of this size a monster was a major understatement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the entire Ajin Guild arc, and what an awesome arc, as we learned a lot about not only Jinwoo, but also more about Hae-in, not to mention how we got to see Jinwoo absolutely destroy the Orcs. Anyway, if you like solo leveling and want to keep up with the content, then be sure to subscribe. Anyway, have a great day, and bye.